The years passed quickly by, and with each day, Charlie's monument grew. Yet the years were not easy, and frequently he and Nellie experienced severe trials. Such an experience occurred on their wedding day, when everyone in town attended the wedding but George Reeves, Charlie's new father-in-law. Charlie had been so angered at the hurt and pain Nellie experienced that he hurled his chosen rock with all his might into the side of his monument the next time he climbed the hill. The resulting chaos had taken him 3 days to rebuild, and Nellie, bless her heart, had reprimanded him for his pride and anger. When Charlie finally saw through her frown and into the twinkle of her eyes, he laughed with her and suddenly realized how good his new wife was going to be for him. Charlie was able to help Nellie too. Rumor upon rumor spread abroad as to why such a girl as she would stoop to marry a strange and crippled man like Charlie. And many of the old wags in town held their noses in the air and turned away whenever Nellie approached. Though this hurt her terribly, she never mentioned it to Charlie. Yet he seemed to know of it and to understand her feelings, for he often spoke to her of the qualities of calmness and serenity. Over and over, he told her that as an individual develops inner strength and confidence, his need for the praise of other people diminishes. He described to her what he called his inner citadel, a fortress he could retreat into when the world became too rough for him to handle. That fortress was built up of self-confidence and a strong feeling of his own personal worth, two qualities he was still working to develop more fully. However, he told her, the outward reflections of that inner citadel were calmness and serenity. So Nellie tried to ignore the crude comments that occasionally came to her ears in town. And though she was not immediately successful, she did find that over the years, she gradually improved. One good thing was brought about by all of this, however. Nellie spent less and less time in town and more time on the hill with Charlie. And over the years, this caused them to grow very close to each other. Besides being husband and wife, each of them became the other's best friend and confidant. One day, Nellie calmly announced to Charlie that she was expecting a child. The poor man immediately got so excited that Nellie couldn't help but laugh and repeat his own preaching on calmness. Charlie accepted her teasing and then became so overly solicitous that Nellie practically had to plead to be allowed to climb the hill after that. Finally, after 9 everlastingly long months, there came a child, a beautiful little girl who was given the name of Anna. She was the light of their lives and the pride of their hearts, and the two parents were amazed at how much happier they were with her in their home than they had been before. They had never guessed that children could bring so much joy. Suddenly, little Anna grew pale and weak, and in just days, the dreaded typhoid had taken her from them. Charlie and Nellie found their grief to be almost unbearable, and for days, all work on the monument ceased. Charlie just couldn't bring himself to go to the hill. Oh, how lonely death was. They constantly found their eyes wandering to the little crib, and each time they did so, they experienced a new shock. Little Anna was really gone, and it was oh so hard to accept. They told themselves that she was happier up in heaven, and they truly believed that she was. Still, the loneliness was almost unbearable, and forever they seemed to be waiting to hear her cry, her happy little cry from out in the yard. And if they had experienced tests before, Anna's death was their trial by fire. At last, though, Charlie returned to his hill. In his agony of spirit, he dragged a huge stone to the top and carefully placed it at the bottom of his monument. It was a terrific ordeal for him to get it to the top, yet somehow the effort made him feel better, and he was able to face life once again with a smile. One day, as Nellie sat watching the town, she had an idea, which she immediately expressed to Charlie. Since they had no one else to share their love with, why not share it with the whole town? Charlie couldn't see a way to do that. So, with little acts of compassion, Nellie set about showing him. From the top of the hill, she would watch the little town for hours, choosing each day someone who might need or want their help. Then that help or service would be given secretly so that the beneficiary would never know who had helped him. Occasionally, a real problem was observed, such as when Charlie spotted smoke coming from under the eaves of Mrs. Ames' laundry. He was able to alert the town so that the fire was put out before it did much damage. The widow Ames, up to them their staunch enemy, made a special trip to their hill to thank them. As they spoke together, she suddenly broke down and wept with gratitude that these two, whom she had treated as enemies with the lies she had spread, would have helped her anyway. Charlie and Nellie were both genuinely amazed and said so. How could they or anyone else have ever considered doing otherwise? From that day on, the widow Ames was perhaps their most loyal and staunch friend. Mostly, though, in their efforts to secretly share their love with the town, they just did trivial things. Sometimes in the morning, they would leave a loaf of warm bread on someone's doorstep. Or Nellie might send Charlie out to steal someone's laundry when it was left out overnight. In the morning, the victim would find the laundry neatly pressed and stacked on his doorstep, with absolutely no indication of where it had spent the night. These and other similar acts of kindness brought great joy and happiness to their lives, lives made so empty by the loss of their lovely daughter. Now, it is fun to do anonymous, nice things for others, to be a secret little elf. Well, I hope you've been enjoying the story. And remember, Grandma loves you.